Welcome to RWM Blue Water Ministry. I'm your host, Bob Manook. If you like this episode, hit the like button. If you want to see more like it, subscribe. We're continuing in our series, Church and State, and today's episode is 3.4.1, Billionaire Bill Gates. Most people have heard of Bill Gates. He was known as a millionaire computer geek. Then he expanded his identity to include philanthropist. Some of you know he is a major donor to the World Health Organization, and he is one of the participants in the World Economic Forum. So Bill Gates is the topic of today's episode. So the first thing we're going to watch here is a brief video of Bill Gates making a presentation to the CIA in 2005, promoting a vaccine to combat fundamentalist, radical religious people. Let's go to the video.
Excuse me, on the left over here, we have individuals who are religious fundamentalists, religious fanatics, and this is the expression, RT-PCR, real-time PCR expression of the VMAT2 gene. Over here, we have individuals. Let me complete. So over here, we have individuals who are not particularly fundamentalists, not particularly religious, and you can see there's a much reduced expression of this particular gene, the VMAT2 gene. Another evidence that supports our hypothesis for the development of this approach.
What you see here is by spreading this virus, we're going to eliminate individuals from donning on a bomb vest and going into a market and blowing up the market.
So our hypothesis is that these are fanatical people, that they have overexpression of the VMAT2 gene, and that by vaccinating them against this, we'll eliminate this behavior. So we have some very, very remarkable data in this next slide. Here we have two brain scans. These are fMRIs. These are two different individuals with different levels of expression of VMAT2. On top is an individual who's a religious fanatic, an individual, and we've repeated this numerous times, that has high levels of VMAT2. Now, this individual down here who had low levels of the VMAT2 gene, this individual would self-describe as not particularly religious. In each case, these individuals were read a religious text. This individual lit up the right middle frontal gyrus, shown here, and that's a part of the brain that's associated with theory of mind. It's a part of the brain that has to do with intents and beliefs and desires. In marked contrast, here's an individual who would not particularly self-describe as religious, and when they're read a religious text, what you see is that this part of the brain called the anterior insula lights up. This is a part of the brain that's associated with disgust or displeasure on hearing something.
So you're suggesting I take a CT scan with me when I'm evaluating people to determine whether I put a bullet in their head?
So the data that I'm presenting here supports the concept that we're proposing, and I think that we would not propose to do CT scans or fMRIs on individuals out in the hinterlands of Afghanistan. The virus would immunize against this VMAT2 gene, and that would have the effect that you see here, which is it's essentially to turn a fanatic into a normal person. And we think that will have major effects in the Middle East.
How would you suggest that this is going to be dispersed? The aerosol?
Well, so the present plan and the tests that we've done so far have used respiratory viruses, such as flu or rhinoviruses, and we believe that that's a satisfactory way to get the exposure of the largest part of the population. Most of us, of course, have been exposed to both of those viruses, and we're quite confident that this will be a very successful approach.
This is fascinating. What's the name of this proposal?
Yeah, so the name of this project is FunVax, which is the vaccine for religious fundamentalism.
And you have a proposal already?
The proposal has just been submitted, And I think that the data that I have shown you today would support the development of this project, and we think it has great promise.
I am interrupting this presentation to make a declaration. The balance of this video is a commentary about Bill Gates by comedian, actor, and successful anti-establishment podcaster Russell Brand. Now I know that Russell Brand is not everybody's cup of tea, and at first I didn't really find him appealing either. But as I listened to him, I found him to be intelligent, satirical, witty, and humorous in some aspects, but he did a lot of research and he brought a lot of facts in, so I found him worth listening to. The other thing I need to give a heads up here is that just recently he has been accused of sexual assault stemming back to like 15 or 20 years ago. So some of his sponsors and hosts are backing off of him, and nevertheless, I'm going to show his presentation here because there's information in it that I think is valuable and worth listening to. And we understand that people can make accusations. Technically, you're innocent until you're proven guilty. So we need to just give a little bit of room for all that to play out. In the meantime, here's Jesse Waters reporting about this allegations.
Russell Brand fighting for his life, and Primetime defends Columbus. Fox News alert: commercial interests have continued to act against Russell Brand after sexual assault allegations broke out. This weekend, 3 separate British news organizations published allegations of rape, sexual assault, and abuse against the British comedian. These allegations are said to have happened between 2006 and 2013. But the London Metropolitan Police say they're looking into another report of sexual assault from 2003. They were just informed of that. Brand's already been dropped by his talent agency and his publisher, and now YouTube is the latest to take action. Brand has had a considerable impact and made a considerable amount of money broadcasting on YouTube, where his commentary skews against the mainstream. YouTube has now suspended Brand and has neutered his ability to make money on the platform. YouTube says Russell Brand violated its creator responsibility policy, saying, quote, "If a creator's off-platform behavior harms our users, employees, or ecosystem, we take action to protect the community." The allegations against Brand are extremely serious and need to be investigated, but YouTube's statement seems to forego any presumption of innocence. The BBC has also pulled some of Russell Brand's work from its streaming service. Brand denies all wrongdoing and alleges this is just a coordinated attack against him for his anti-establishment views, and we'll keep you posted as the story progresses.
So Jesse Waters said allegations have been made, but he is considered innocent until proven guilty. Brand has denied the allegations and said his relationships have always been consensual. Nevertheless, the allegations do not make his commentary any less valid. I found him to be intelligent, quick-witted, and caring about facts. Here's Russell Brand's commentary on Bill Gates. Listen close because he speaks fast.
Bill Gates is in the news again because of his questionable relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, but it's the real Bill Gates conspiracy that he's able to manipulate the entire planet into a profit-making machine and call himself a philanthropist. Also, Jeffrey Epstein. Hello there, you 6 million awakening wonders. Thanks for joining us on this voyage towards truth and freedom, where we accrue facts and stories and try our best to bring about new narratives that are about empowering you against centralized globalist forces. That's why we're talking about Bill Gates today, not because of his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, although Jeffrey Epstein himself is more than just a Willy Wonka for perverts. He's also someone who's got a lot of weird financial stuff going on historically with some of the most powerful people in the world. But what we want to talk about today is Bill Gates' ability to exert influence through organizations like the WHO to make incredible amounts of money in fields like medicine and agriculture, areas where he has no more expertise really than you or I, except actually I can't make any money out of it, so he has got more more than me. But what I mean to say is, how can at the end of all this profiteering, Bill Gates look at himself in the mirror and say, there is a philanthropist. Let's work it out together, shall we? Microsoft founder Bill Gates said he shouldn't have had dinners with Jeffrey Epstein during an interview with Australia's ABC 7:30. Yeah, I suppose not. I suppose don't have dinners with Jeffrey Epstein. I suppose that's what everyone's saying now, aren't they? All over the world, I shouldn't have dinners and flights and some of that other stuff with Jeffrey Epstein. Gates and Epstein met numerous times, beginning in 2011, according to a New York Times report. But Gates told CNN he only had dinners with him for potential philanthropic opportunities. Gotta find some opportunities for philanthropy. Maybe that guy over there with those teenagers. Hey, Jeffrey!
Now, one of the issues that's dogged you is that of your relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Do you regret the relationship that you maintained with him against Melinda's advice and wishes?
Oh, I've said that you're going way back in time.
I wonder what Bill Gates thinks an interview is, talking about stuff that hasn't happened yet, or only describing things that are happening right now. Thanks for coming on the show, Bill. I see you wearing like a black jacket and a white shirt and doing that squirmy face that people do when they don't want to talk about something. Oh, yeah.
But yeah,
New audience.
I will say for the, over 100th time, yeah, I shouldn't have had dinners with him.
Epstein had a way of sexually compromising people. Is that what Melinda was warning you about?
No.
No, I think she was worried about some of the philanthropy opportunities. That Jeffrey Epstein would create so many philanthropy opportunities that we'd be deluged. And I'd need that little paperclip guy from Microsoft Windows to get involved. Hey, you might want to try not going for dinner with this guy.
No, I had dinner with him, and that's all.
And that you regret the relationship, the acquaintance?
That I had dinner with him.
All of us are naturally interested in salacious stories of this nature, and the media obviously enjoys reporting on certain aspects of them. But what I think is very interesting about Bill Gates is he's managed to maneuver himself into a position where he can go around the world telling us what medicines to use, funding through the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the WHO. He also funds the WHO through secondary foundations that he funds, and then they fund the WHO. He invests in particular in vaccines and then sells them. Almost Nancy Pelosi skill-like levels of when to invest and when not to. Sorry, did I say Nancy Pelosi? I meant Paul Pelosi. Those are completely different people that don't even communicate about God, that was crazy what I just did there. Putting Nancy Pelosi and Paul Pelosi together like that as if they sleep in the same bed and maybe chat about stuff. The US-based pharmaceutical giant Pfizer reported Tuesday that it brought in a record-breaking $100.3 billion in revenue in 2022. Good profits. Good year. How was 2022 for you? Oh, sorry to hear that. Should have invested in Pfizer. But what most people don't know are the two other companies behind the mRNA vaccines. Moderna and BioNTech are two biotech startups founded in 2008 and 2010 respectively, with the stated goal of pioneering messenger RNA, mRNA, therapies to the world of healthcare. These two companies are one of the success stories of the coronavirus pandemic. There are a few success stories. Interestingly, some of the world's most powerful interests did really well during that pandemic. BioNTech, which later partnered with Pfizer to develop mRNA vaccines, is now valued at over $46.33 billion. That's from 2021. With success comes the opportunity to raise more money, and investors surely didn't disappoint. Money started pouring in from the government, venture capitalists, and private investors, including Bill Gates. Those investments came at a time when the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation was the second biggest donor to the WHO. The first biggest is like a country, like America or Germany, where people live with a history and everything. So now let's break down the Bill Gates vaccine timeline so we can understand how Bill Gates' views, Bill Gates' billions, and the narrative that the rest of us are forced to drink down like a cup of cold sick co-align nicely. In 2011, Bill Gates said that vaccine investment offers the best returns according to a report from Reuters. Vaccines are one of the best investments we can make in the future. So that's 2011. No one's worried about anything. We're all going on holiday wherever we want. If you wear a mask, it means that you're Michael Jackson. September 2019. Bill Gates initially invests $55 million on a pre-IPO equity investment into BioNTech. Gates' investment in BioNTech may actually be higher. It's difficult to say because sometimes they invest in ways that are difficult to track via secondary organizations, as with the WHO. The fact is that it's unlikely that any one individual has more influence over the WHO than Bill Gates. Also know that this is a person that is investing in commodities that the WHO are later going to beyond recommend, borderline insist on. You remember the pandemic, right? January 2020, a Washington state resident becomes the first person in the United States with a confirmed case of 2019 novel coronavirus. Well done. Ruined it for everyone. August 2021. The Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine receives FDA approval for people aged 16 years and older. January 2021. Gates says everyone who takes the vaccine is not just protecting themselves, but reducing their transmission to other people and allowing society to get back to normal. Let's just go through those claims. And obviously we're on YouTube right now, so you're going to have to do a lot of this work in your own mind. You're protecting yourself. Okay. You're reducing the transmission to other people. Okay. And you're allowing society to go back to normal. You can just use your own mind and memory to work out how true that all is. January 2021. Gates describes the mRNA vaccines as magic, saying there would be a game changer in the next 5 years. Magic. Actual magic. That's the opposite of science, isn't it? Science is efficacy, empiricism, like we can prove this, we can repeat it. Magic is, well, I don't know how that happened, and yeah, maybe it is magic actually. Certainly there was some sleight of hand involved and a little bit of smoke and mirrors. And game changer, yeah, I remember when the game changed to the game of hide and seek and stay in your own house forever. April 2021. Gates says in an interview that the US and developed countries shouldn't lift COVID-19 vaccine patent protection to share with underdeveloped countries. This has always been a problematic moment in the vaccine narrative, because if you believe that vaccines are the solution, then surely you'd want to share that solution with everyone. What is suggested to me by that is that the vaccines were at least in part about profit. Gates' investment in BioNTech is now worth over $550 million. So at that point, the value in the stock had increased by 10 times if we assume the figure to have been $55 million. By the end of 2022, Gates reportedly sells some of his BioNTech stock, representing a huge gain for him over when he invested. So he profited from vaccines during the pandemic. January 2023, Gates tells the Lowy Institute think tank in Sydney that current vaccines are not infection blocking, they're not broad, so when new variants come up, you lose protection, and they have very short duration. Now, if that sounds different from earlier in the year when he said they were magic and sparkly and twinkly and that they were Jesus in a syringe, that's because it does seem a bit different. But let's have a look at him saying that.
The current vaccines are not infection blocking. They're not broad, so when new variants come up, you lose protection, and they have very short duration.
So you've sold your stock then. January 2023, BioNTech's value has dropped to $20.54 billion. So Bill Gates, among his many other skills, agriculture, buying up farmland, telling India what to do, telling Africa what to do, telling the world what to do, funding the WHO, inventing Windows, also now includes he's a stock market genius. Either Bill Gates has Pelosi-style stock market timing, or there's something going on here. Do you think it's right? Let me know in the chat, let me know in the comments, that someone who's so influential in the response to the pandemic, specifically saying that vaccines are the best thing in the world, also invests in and profits from vaccines. Do you think that that's philanthropy? Because I thought philanthropy was like being kind. It's like the Mother Teresa. She weren't like making a fortune out of them tea towels she wore. Philanthropy is supposed to be love of humankind, and love and money seldom align. Let's see the figures behind Bill Gates' influence. The Gates Foundation is the second largest contributor to the WHO. As of September 2021, it had invested nearly $780 million in its programs that year. For an intergovernmental organisation such as the WHO to be so reliant on private philanthropy, especially one whose leaders have personal interests and investments in healthcare, is problematic. Intergovernmental, that's a crazy way of saying globalist, huh? Intergovernment, we're into that government, and we're into that government. I didn't vote for you. Yeah, you don't need to. Private foundations' resources tend to be more dependent on the stock market and other investments, and could have financial interests that run contrary to their stated missions. Right, so they could be saying on one hand we're here to help people, and on the other hand they could be making fortunes on the stock market that were somewhat induced by global conditions that they influenced. Let me know in the chat, let me know in the comments. This is Tim Schwab writing in The Nation. In 2020, the Gates Foundation reported a $40 million stake in CureVac, one of dozens of investments the foundation reports having in companies working on COVID vaccines, therapeutics, diagnostics, or manufacturing. It looks like the Gates Foundation invested heavily in the WHO, who make recommendations when it comes to global responses to healthcare crises, and similarly invested in a number of organisations that were working on vaccines. Now, if you wanted to be incredibly optimistic, you'd say, well, look, they're super committed, therefore, to healthcare and vaccines. So they're like, right, we've got to have influence in the WHO. Plus, we've got to make sure there's a bunch of people working working on vaccines. But if that were the case, you wouldn't keep hearing the word profit. Sorry, did I say invested in the WHO? I meant donate to the WHO. Investing is what capitalists do. Donating is what philanthropists do. And as you know, Bill Gates is a philanthropist. These investments, amounting to more than $250 million, show that the world's most visible charity and one of the world's most influential voices in the pandemic response is in a position to potentially reap considerable financial gains from the COVID-19 pandemic. How many of the people that were hero worshipped in that pandemic profited from it? Looks like Gates did. We know that Pfizer did. They want all of the money and they want to be patted on the back as they spend it. Revelations of the Gates Foundation's financial stake in COVID-19, which Bill Gates does not appear to have publicly disclosed in dozens of recent media appearances, speak to broader criticisms about the lack of transparency in the foundation's increasingly central role in the pandemic. I was at Jeffrey Epstein's house to work out a philanthropic response to any future pandemics, and those waitresses, I don't know what they were doing, those meetings with Jeffrey Epstein were to discuss a surprise for your birthday, and you ruined it. You're just like Melinda. Who are they accountable to? They don't even have a governance structure that's clear, notes Kate Elder, Senior Vaccines Policy Advisor to Doctors Without Borders. That is a philanthropic organisation, and that's an alliance of doctors that go around the world responding to crises and emergencies. Those are the kind of voices that are important. You know that during the pandemic, all sorts of voices that were excluded, scientists, people that invented vaccines, it just went all crazy. And really, the one consistent thing appears to be that the people whose voices were most lionised and prized profited from it. Increasingly, I see less information coming from the Gates Foundation. They don't answer most of our questions. They don't make their technical staff available for discussions with us when we're trying to learn more about their technical strategy on COVID and how they're prioritising certain things. Doctors Without Borders would surely be one of the organisations you'd want an open dialogue with, that you would be backing and supporting and sharing information with, it seems to me at least. And Gates' priorities in developing and distributing a COVID vaccine, Elder says, are increasingly the world's priorities, as multilateral institutions like the World Health Organization have ceded leadership to a group of public-private partnerships where Gates provides key funding. These organizations, the Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness Innovations and Gavi, the Vaccine Alliance, are working with the WHO to develop the largest and most diverse COVID-19 vaccine portfolio in the world. That doesn't sound like philanthropy, does it, when you read it? It sounds like monopoly. James Love, director of the NGO Knowledge Ecology International, says the foundation's decades of work on vaccines, along with its sprawling financial ties, allowed it to assert influence early in the pandemic. Gates' leadership in the pandemic has been widely, almost universally praised. But because Gates is not an elected representative or public official, just let me read that again, he's not an elected representative or public official, the details of his far-reaching influence and finances have largely eluded public scrutiny. You have an enormous amount of power that affects everyone around the globe, and there should be some accountability, some transparency, says Love. People are not asking unreasonable things. It's a charity. We're asking, can you explain what you're doing, for example? You see what you're doing? Yeah? Can you explain what it is? No! Stop it! Mind your own business! Buy BioNTech! Can you show us what these contracts look like? Those contracts you've got, can we look at them? No! Those are private contracts! Now, Jeffrey, what are you going to have after your prawn cocktail? Would you help me with some of those? Waitress, you're going to get a hell of a chill. Particularly since they're using their money to influence policies that involve our money. Yeah, right. If it involves our money, would you mind telling me what you'll do with our money? No! Mind? Well, it is your business, but off. Jörg Schaber, executive director of the German advocacy group BUKO Pharma Campaign, sees the Gates Foundation as having an ideological investment in this business model, pointing to many of the foundation's senior staff who come from the pharmaceutical industry, including the president of Gates' Global Health Program. It's very interesting that the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation board is made up from people from profitable pharmaceutical companies and experts in the field. Of course, obviously, you could argue that their expertise is necessary due to that endeavour, but it's curious that we just accept that it's not made up of other philanthropists and other people with experience in charity and helping people, and that the investments are inscrutable. It's kind of comparable to Zelensky inviting BlackRock, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs to be involved in the redevelopment or reconstruction of Ukraine. When you hear those names, when you hear those associations, you have to recognise that there are systemic biases, that there is a systemic agenda. You don't spend your whole life in big pharma and then go, oh, right, I'm just going to grow a long beard and go around the world helping people, doing what? Oh, as it turns out, exerting influence over the WHO, investing in vaccine companies, making some charitable donations, which, you know, okay, where do they end up? Other organisations that are lobbying the WHO. I mean, it's very curious. It sounds a little bit like it's too much in alignment with the kind of profitable endeavours that Bill Gates made his fortune in. Other critics note how the Gates Foundation's endowment could benefit from the foundation pushing COVID vaccine development towards exclusive licenses. Again, that's not that philanthropic, is it? Bill Gates' tax records and investment portfolio bear scrutiny because of his leadership role in the pandemic, whose total cost to the global economy is in the trillions of dollars. Public understanding of Gates' finances is also limited by the foundation's maze of inscrutable investments. What is this constant intrigue in the foundation's maze of inscrutable investments? Well, it's just that we can't scrutinise them. I said good day! While the Gates Foundation is a non-profit organisation, its endowment still generates billions of dollars in income. More money over the last 5 years than the foundation has given away in charitable grants. Hold on a minute. So they've got more money than they've given away in charitable grants, and it's a not-for-profit organisation. What do we call that additional money then? I said good day! If the pandemic does end up delivering a financial windfall to Bill Gates or his foundation, it may pale in comparison to the political boost he's received as Earth's de facto vaccine czar. His widely lauded role in the pandemic already appears to have helped institutionalise and normalise his political power in other areas where the foundation works. When WHO was formed as an intergovernmental organisation, it would have been unimaginable that a private foundation could have such influence, said Lawrence Gostin, faculty director for the O'Neill Institute at Georgetown University. It would enable a single rich philanthropist to set the global health agenda. And that's what's happened. So isn't the main point we're making here that Bill Gates has PR'd himself into this astonishing position and as the de facto Earth czar of pandemics, and agricultural expert, and evidently an expert in computers and economics and all of these fields, including the many, many fields that he owns literally in the United States of America, where philanthropy doesn't appear to be at the forefront of the enterprise. Profit appears to be at the forefront of the enterprise. Influence, control, power, these things are worthy of scrutiny. Most of us are becoming suspicious about the globalist agenda that appears to be being enacted, that was exacerbated by the pandemic that to a degree required at least global coordination, but that global coordination ought to have led to better healthcare, less deaths, benefit and care packages for ordinary people, rather than more and more opportunities to centralise wealth and accrue power. Bill Gates, I think, uniquely appears to be a figure that's widely regarded and reported on as being a philanthropist, when there is another narrative that isn't being explained or presented to us. And I think that we ought be able to discuss that without being regarded as conspiracy theorists. So whether or not he had dinners with Jeffrey Epstein, just a couple of dinners with Jeffrey Epstein, who also has a bunch of weird financial ties and relationships aside from the more evident and lurid stuff, or we just track Bill Gates' role throughout the pandemic, it seems that there are a lot of inquiries and questions that aren't being made in the mainstream media, where curiously Bill Gates also makes a large number of investments or donations, or whatever you want to call them, because I don't know why newspapers need bloody donations. Better be a business, aren't they? Anyway, it's all confusing. It's obviously too confusing for us. All I suppose we ought do when it comes to it is hold these kind of people to account, assure that all of the narratives available are reported, and where possible, have democracy. And you're not going to get that when you have powerful figures posing as philanthropists that are profiting potentially from pandemics. But that's just what I think. Let me know what you think in the comments in the chat. If you enjoyed this video, have a look at either of these. Turn on the notification bell and subscribe right now. This platform generally supports mainstream media contributors, and we need you. You are all we have, but you are all we want. Stay free.
Heavenly Father, we just come before you in Jesus' name. And Lord, as we hear this information, we just pray that you would cause a witness in our hearts, that we might know what is truth and what is not. Lord, help us to discern. We ask it in Jesus' name. Amen. Watch for our next episode in the Church and State series. Episode 3.4.2, The Billionaires. Part 2, George Soros. If you enjoyed this message, hit the like button. If you want to hear more, subscribe. This is Bob Manook declaring blessings on you and yours until we meet again. Amen.